Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of So You're Ready Today. Last week, we started to dive into and dissect the topic of flirting. And I think we had so much fun and so much to say on that episode that we kind of ran out of time. So if you haven't checked that episode, that is definitely a precursor to what we're going to be talking about today. And you can go back and listen. But today we're going to dive into flirting a little bit deeper and what flirting looks like when you're in an established relationship, because I think it's an important thing to keep alive and to keep things fresh in your relationship. And it's probably a simple, maybe I'm oversimplifying, but a simple and easy way to continue to connect with your partner and to show interest and to show them that they are still desirable.
Yes, I think it's one of those things where I've got so many things on our plate where an established relationship, what goes first? And it probably is sometimes that gushy stuff that you used to do in the beginning, the mushies, the good morning texts, the good night texts, all of that, check-ins in the middle of the day. That's not besides, hey, make sure you stop and pick up such and such kid and get milk on your way home. So finding like conversations to have with your person that are outside of maybe your day-to-day life that allows you to reconnect on a deeper level and to keep and maintain that depth of your relationship, regardless of where you are in your life journey.
Yes. And sometimes it can be simple, and sometimes we have to put some thought into it. But keeping those things alive in our relationships is really important. And so I think you're right. A lot of times that's very much the first thing to go. And so I think one of the first tips I would talk about and say is super quick and easy and reminds or is really in that flirting realm is to take a quick selfie and just send a picture and say, "Hey, I'm thinking of you." That's one of those really great ways to just remind your significant other that they're important to you and that you do think about them during the day.
Well, and yeah, like you said, one of those quick and easy ways to be saying like, "Hey, I miss you," or "I heard this our song on the radio today," and or sending, there's a bunch of little ways to be like, "You were on my mind, and I wanted to let you know that you were on my mind," in a very fun and relaxed way, and not in a he or she didn't put their socks in the hamper kind of way.
Yes, yes. And once you're in an established relationship, some of that flirting can get a little bit spicier, which is a whole lot of fun too.
Yes, because I feel like you already know, right, where your boundaries are, what you want to talk about. There's so many people on TikTok, at least at the moment, probably Instagram as well, that are telling you very easy ways to take like spicy selfies. They can be, again, as spicy or not as you want. What better way than to have to make somebody turn their phone away from everybody else at the table, right? So again, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that sexual way. It can be just like, "Hey, I really like you in that shirt today. It just, you looked really handsome," or "You looked really beautiful the way you did your hair," or finding those ways to compliment your person. That goes a long way to be like, I noticed you maybe put effort. I say put effort in, and yes, that might be that might definitely be the thing that today you put in a little bit of effort, but noticing that they did something for themselves or whatever it is, that goes a long way to kind of keeping that connection burning.
Right. And even going back to what we were talking about last time is making sure that if you're doing that, and the only reason I say that is because, hey, you put effort in today, because sometimes that's a valid compliment, right? If it's something that you don't ever put effort in and it's hey, I want to celebrate you because today this happened or whatever. But sometimes that can also be that backhanded compliment if it's something that you want them to put effort into and they don't usually. And you're like, "Hey, I see that you were able to do this today." And it can be more of an insult than a compliment. So, really watching the things that you're saying, because sometimes with our significant others and in those established relationships, those backhanded compliments can come a little bit easier than we'd like them to if we're complimenting on something that tends to frustrate us.
Absolutely. Yeah, there is a specific way that you can say a compliment to your partner, and maybe it's the fact that you helped get the kids off and ready to school so they had some more time to put into their appearance, because most of the time we like to look good, not only for our significant others but also for ourselves. But yeah, it's about finding the wording to that that's not going to just cause everybody to have a fight. It's about saying, and I think just saying, looks like you put in effort is probably never going to be the way to go. But keeping it simple as like, hey, your hair looked really nice. I love that color of lipstick. Your earrings were fun. There are a bazillion other things that you can compliment them on, as opposed to saying, hey, it looks like you did something today.
Right. And if you're a woman and you're talking about the masculine energy and what will really go a long way with men, again, we're talking about compliments in a form of flirting. But realistically, that is because flirting is a way of showing attraction. And so when you're lifting somebody up, that is a way of showing attraction. So we're kind of using a broad term here, but men really like to feel like you're proud of them. So telling them that you are proud of them for something that they've done, whether for you or an accomplishment at work, something like that is really something that is going to make your man feel good and potentially is going to be considered flirting and lead to some other ways to have conversations.
Yes. So I'm just going to throw it out there because I was talking to my boyfriend about this, and I'm like, we were meeting the other day and I'm like, the stubble is really working on you. You look really sexy with that stubble. And I don't think I've ever seen that man blush, but he kind of did. And then the other day, I'm like, he said, we were talking about something he does, something really smart. I'm like, your brain is really sexy to me. And so finding those ways that, like you said, compliment that, hey, thank you for your insight on this. That really helped. Or I'm so proud of you for how hard you're studying for this thing, or how hard you worked for this project. So there are definite ways that you can compliment the physical. Don't think that that's not going to turn them on just as much as it does for a woman. But like you said, finding maybe some of those other ways that, like, I appreciated this about you and I see what you have done.
Yes. And I like that. Telling them what you find sexy. That is right. That is a huge way to flirt and turn them on. And sometimes that sexiness gets lost in a relationship, especially in an established relationship when you're living together and you've seen the best and worst parts with the bedhead and the morning breath and listen to them be sick in the bathroom and all of that other stuff. It sometimes that sexy component can get lost. So finding those things, but the thing is you get more of what you're looking for too. So if that has faded a little bit in your relationship, looking for things that you find appealing, attractive, and sexy about your partner, vocalizing them is important. But as you are looking for them, especially if you're having to dig deep to find them, the more you look for them, the more you will find them, which also can be a transformative component to your relationship to bring it back and reignite some of that fire that may have gone by the wayside if you've let the flirting slip or if some other things have happened.
We talked about it in the last episode, giving compliments like candy. Challenge yourself to every day find something that you can compliment your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your person on. And like you said, it should hopefully or fingers crossed it becomes easier for you to see. But especially if you felt like you've been in this rut or felt stuck in some way in your relationship, challenging yourself every day to find something that you can compliment your person about. And I think then the next day it'll be a little bit easier to see something that you want to genuinely compliment them on. Sometimes it may be a fake it till you make it kind of a situation, but I think if you really sat down and thought about it, you could easily come up with something to compliment them about. And again, that positive energy goes a long way, especially if you felt disconnected, kind of apart from each other, to start bringing you back to being like, why did I fall in love with you in the first place? Oh, yeah, that's why.
Yeah, and this is a little bit of a different conversation than the flirting, but I think it's important to hit on and really goes to the flirting and making sure that that intimacy piece stays there because everybody wants to feel wanted. And so if you're having a hard time finding something to compliment your significant other on, maybe it's as simple as, hey, thanks for putting the dishes in the dishwasher. Or maybe it's even simpler and saying, thanks for putting your toothbrush away this morning. I don't know what that looks like for you, but start out with the simplest things, what you need to focus on. And that becomes about us internally and refocusing our attention because where we put our attention, what we focus on is going to grow and expand, and we're going to get more of that. So when we grow and expand and get more of looking for the good things, it's not about eliminating the stuff that is frustrating or irritating or missing, but it's about growing the good things and it's about focusing more on where those good things are. That flirting comes back a little bit easier, and we find those ways to flirt. Now, if you're just looking to spice it up because the flirting is gone and the romance is gone or whatever that looks like, go back to the basics and remember physical touch. Physical touch is huge in flirting. And ladies, I know if you're moms and you've got littles at home, sometimes you are tired of being touched. I get that. I know that. And you don't have to be, and if that's not what you can do, then that's not what you can do. But if you can do it, remember that even that touch on the hand, the touch on the arm, a hug, a physical embrace, going back to some of that physical touch can be very appealing, can be sexy, and can get some of those flirting juices going in your significant other, especially if they're starving or lacking on that physical touch that you are getting overstimulated with.
Yes. Is that a point where you can ask your partner, being like, I would love to hug you, hold your hand, whatever. I've just touched out. I need you to watch over all of these little little rugrats here while I go take a bath, while I go have 5 minutes to decompress, do whatever. But I think there are other ways that maybe you can start to move towards that way. I saw this video. I'm like, whispering. Why do we not whisper more? That
Oh,
can
super
be
sexy.
an easy way to say, maybe you don't want to text the compliment, but you can whisper, thank you so much for bringing home dinner. This was amazing. Just have in mind what you're going to whisper before you kind of get yourself in that space. But those are really easy ways to be connected, sort of kind of physically, but maybe not with like full on touching. And I think it's also important to have that conversation that not every touch is going to lead to sex, because I think that can be something that happens in a lot of long-term relationships, is that you get this idea that, okay, we started kissing or we started touching, but practicing some of these touches and not having it lead to sex or something like that, so that you both feel comfortable kind of flirting, and maybe that unexpected tap on the rear end as you're walking by, or holding hands in the car, or a million other ways that you can have those unexpected kind of secret physical touches, but having some, again, some expectations around what is okay, what is not okay.
Yeah, and there's sometimes, so when my significant other and I are hanging out on Friday night, and let's say that we're going to cook a meal together, something like that, sometimes a hip bump can be nice and flirty and slide them out of the way. So there's a lot of ways to engage in that physical touch without extended sensory input on the touch side.
Are you dancing in the kitchen? Are you dancing in the bathroom as you're getting ready in the morning? So again, that can be, love that, those easy ways to bring maybe that hint of physical touch without it full blown into this is what it needs to be.
And then remember that there are ways to be sexy and to flirt and to show that side. If you are in that stage of your relationship where you're having sex or sexy talk is okay. If you're not, this may not be the thing for you. But since we're talking about established relationships, one of the ones that I heard the other day as I was looking up some different ways to flirt with your long-term partner or relationship is sending a text and saying, hey, what color underwear am I wearing? And they might go red, and you're, nope, yellow, nope, green, nope, I'm not wearing any, winky face. Getting somebody in the mood like that and coming up with kind of those ways to turn it into a game is a lot of fun to keep that sexual energy and a little bit of sexual tension in your relationship and to bring that flirting component back.
Exactly, that way of saying, hey, you see this particular toy, instrument, whatever, video, I want to try this when you get home. That can be a way to be like, hey, or maybe it's about coming back to that conversation about what do you want to try. If maybe it feels like things have gotten stale, are there any fantasies that maybe you have that you can start, role playing via text to kind of set the mood a little bit? But I think it's a great way to start that conversation, because for, I won't say maybe all women, but like the vast majority of women, a lot of our biggest sexual organ is our brain. So having these conversations way before we even get physical or close to each other, that we could be physical, for a lot of us is really a nice aphrodisiac. It really starts to get the juice, the the motor going. Kind of careful what I say there.
Careful what you say there. Yes.
It can stoke the fire of passion. Maybe that's a better romance novel euphemism. But I don't discount the fact that maybe you're scheduling time. That can be really important, because then, we're having this particular date night. Spend that whole day sending flirty texts. Send that whole day being like, oh, I bought some chocolate syrup. Guess where it's going? You've been on TikTok. Maybe you bought fruit roll-ups. There's a whole list of things that you can be doing and starting to create that desire, that passion, that anticipation way before you've even stepped into a room with your other person. And I think, at least for me, that's always something that I find very attractive, because it's like, oh, it's been on your mind. I've been on your mind. So how far can I push this?
Yes, yes. And whether or not the intent is for it to end up with something saucy in the bedroom, or whether or not it is going to end up in sex, or whether you're just flirting to flirt because you're bringing that romantic piece back into it, or you're trying to get back to that space in your relationship, there are a lot of different ways to go about it. And I think we've hit so many of them, including like, let's start with compliments. Let's start with looking for the good. Let's start with, maybe a text that says, hey, how's your day? All the way up to and including, he's going to walk in the door and go straight to the bedroom because he thinks you're laying there naked. Which maybe you are. Who knows? That could be fun.
Yeah. And when all else fails, go old school, and instead of creating a mixtape, do a Spotify playlist of all your best, all these songs all remind me of you. I mean, don't discount the value of saying, hey, I listened to this song. It reminded me of you and me. And that can be really sexy too. So it's about this broad spectrum, right? That it doesn't always have to be one thing. And again, it's always what works for you and your relationship. Maybe you don't have the comfort level to send those saucy texts, but you could do it in a poem or a song lyric or a million other ways. It's just about what makes the most sense and how can you feel more connected to your person, so that your relationship and that love and that bond keeps going strong for as long as you need it to or want it to, I guess.
Fun. Keep it light. Make people feel good, and find ways to be connected. That's what that is really all about. And I think there are so many different ways to do it. and allowing yourself permission to do it, but get creative. This is the person who you built trust with. And if you're still building trust, that's fine too. But find those ways to be unique and creative and let your own creative juices flow, because we are creative beings. We are meant to create, and we have an infinite capacity to go out there and be ourselves and find that connection. And flirting is about also creating that connection and being wanted. So how do you show your significant other that they're wanted? And that's sexy as hell.
Yes, and maybe it takes a revisit to the love languages, right? To see, am I making sure that I'm showing them love in the way that they best receive it? And hopefully you can't go wrong by showing your person that you love and want them around, but it never hurts to maybe speak it in their language just a little bit.
Yes, yes. And if you've gone out and you've learned a sexy dance, home and offer to show them. Like there are so many different ways to do that. And if you show love in a different way because it's acts of service, and so you go out and you decide that you're going to learn a dance, then bring it home and give that in your way, but then also in their way. Or maybe there's this physical, or is gifts, right? Giving gifts or receiving gifts. Then maybe it's go out and do a boudoir shoot and put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, but grow your own confidence at the same time, and come home with that sexy gift and give that to them. That's sexy too, and flirting. And it shows them that you want them in the way that they want to be wanted, and or in a way that they may want to be wanted, one of those ways, because we all want to be wanted physically too.
Yes. So we want to hear your best flirting stories. I want to know what you're saying to that person you've been with 5, 10, 30 years. How do you keep those fires stoked? Because that is a testament in and of itself to be able to keep that attraction and that passion alive as your life changes and your chapters and of your life kind of pass through, so that you create love in all kind of areas of your life. So, or maybe you have a question about flirting that we didn't fully cover, because flirting can be a nice, big, long, juicy topic. So we're happy to talk more. We're probably usually happy to talk more about any of the topics on the podcast. So feel free to drop us a line at soyou'readytodate@gmail.com. Or if you've got funny stories, we're always open to like funny stories where maybe you thought you were flirting and it didn't quite go the way that you were hoping to. So share with us topics that you want, questions you have, stories you feel like sharing with us, because we want to hear them all. So we thank you so much for joining us for another episode, and we will talk to you all next week.